Bitcoin hitting as low as almost 80,000 yesterday. Could this be the actual reversal that is happening here? Okay, so that $80,000 level is significant for quite a few things because it was also the breakdown target of this huge rising wedge pattern I've talked about for quite some time. And it basically hit that target as well as a few major support levels here, including your monthly 21 SMA. And I've talked about that to be a very likely bottom for Bitcoin. And why do I think that? It's because Bitcoin has not been on this support during this entire trend since October 2023. And when you touch down to a moving average for the first time, the likelihood of that moving average, of the price action bouncing off that moving average, is very high. Okay, so that is why I think this is a very likely bottom for Bitcoin. If we actually take a look into some previous times where Bitcoin has touched down to this moving average, right? Just to illustrate some examples here. This is back in January of 2022 when it touched down on the monthly 21 SMA. And basically, this moving average has held the price action up for 4 months before the price action broke down from it. However, that was in the middle of a bear market, and that was a very overdue um dump there, because if you guys can see, that was basically from the top of the 2021 bull markets, where Bitcoin has been to an RSI level on the monthly time frame of above 90, getting bearish divergence and finally dumping and commencing that bear market there. So this is why I think this is a very likely bottom, right? And I don't think we're in a bear market. So that is one of my key arguments on why I think this is a very potential bottom, along with a few other signals here, including the daily time frame RSI. We have not been this low since the earlier this year. Okay, earlier this year, where February, okay, where we had a very good bounce. I mean, that basically took Bitcoin from about 82,000 to 125,000, the all-time high. Okay. Also, what I'm looking at here is the 12-hour time frame. 12-hour time frame, I'm seeing a falling wedge that has broken down from this falling wedge pattern here, which is not good because the falling wedges are bullish patterns that usually break to the upside. This one broke down. In order for any kind of bullish momentum to be happening in the short term, for us to see a reversal in the short term, you want to see a 12-hour, as of this snapshot here, you want to see a 12-hour candle back within this falling wedge pattern here that would invalidate this breakdown and this pattern altogether. Okay, so this is basically for Bitcoin. And why am I talking about Bitcoin? It's because it is the driver of this crypto market. If Bitcoin has more room to pump, that is going to be very good for a lot of these altcoins. However, if Bitcoin continues dumping from here, which I'm not going to rule it out, right? Nothing in this market is 100%. We're all just talking about probabilities here, okay? Then that could still drag these altcoins further down, okay? We're also going to be taking a look into a few altcoin setups later in this video, which will include AVNT, AI Companions, which is AIC, as well as Moodeng, the meme coin. Take a look into what are their current trading setups now, in case Bitcoin does reverse from here, in case if this is the last shakeout, right? Because we have hit quite a few targets right? Including that breakdown target. And we're at a major support level here. Okay. So let's take a look into, we're going to take a look into some news headlines first. I'll give you guys my instant reaction to some news headlines before diving into some altcoin charts. This one's by You Today. It's by Arthur Hayes. Bitcoin bottom is near, but there's a catch. Former BitMEX CEO Arthur Hayes has opined that Bitcoin might be close to bottoming out following a truly violent sell-off that took place earlier this week. How about just a couple of hours ago? That said, Hayes has cautioned traders not to buy the dip prematurely, claiming that they have to wait for a steeper sell-off in the stock markets. Okay, so what he's talking about is there is a potential steeper sell-off based on what he's seeing in the stock market. So let's take a look into the stock market. I'm taking a look into the S&P 500, which I usually see very good correlation between. Okay. And what I'm seeing here is the stock market. This is S&P 500 futures, ES1 exclamation mark. It is on a support level that, let's see here. It is on a support level. So could this be a bounce that is happening for the stock market here? You want to see the S&P 500 here at least ending up with a higher low here. So you want to see the weekly candle closing above 6,600. Otherwise, that could be breaking this higher low trajectory. That is basically the foundation of an uptrend, and that's not good. Okay, so the weekly candle closes in about 4 hours. Got to be paying attention to that. I think that could determine the trajectory of crypto based on the correlation. All right, let's take a look into the next piece here, which is by The Block. Conviction in Bitcoin is unwavering. Saylor rebutes MSCI removal risk amid strategy stock sell-off. As his company shares price keeps falling, strategy chairman Michael Saylor has struck a defiant tone for the second time in as many weeks. Okay. In a post on X Friday morning, Saylor addressed the possibility of strategy ticker MSTR being removed from major equity indices by the MSCI. Okay. The Bitcoin Treasury Pioneer is included in major indices such as the NASDAQ 100, MSCI USA, and MSCI World. So that is a big risk that he's taking. It is good to hear what other bulls think, especially during times like these. But don't let them form your opinions. You guys got to form your own opinions first before hearing others. That's what I like to do. I like to form my own opinions first and then hear the echoes of others. Especially during more uncertain times. I think that would make it more reassuring. But I still have to have conviction in my own opinions first, and mine is going to be a lot based off of what I'm seeing here on the charts. Now, I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here, so my opinions on these markets, on these crypto markets, are still bullish. However, these are just my opinions and what I'm doing personally. It's not financial advice. You guys got to form your own opinions and strategies. Next one is by Dow Jones Newswires. Bitcoin dives again in worst week for 3 years. Why does crypto doom loop will continue? Barons.com. Now, I always like to hear the opposite side and what they're saying because I want to see if they make sense as well and give myself a reality check. Now, this is by George Glover and Anita Hamilton. Okay, there could be more pain ahead for Bitcoin as the price was dropping again on Friday and the cryptocurrency sell-off deepens. From a demand perspective, it appears there is an early yet growing sense of concern that could evolve into full-on panic if the selling pressure continues to intensify further than it already has. It doesn't really give me any specific reasons why. It's like just their own narrative, right? The world's largest crypto has slumped 7.7% to 83,000 over the past 24 hours. It doesn't really give me a specific reason why. So let's see. on why they're projecting further downside. Okay, let's see here. Several factors that have driven the recent plunge in crypto prices. So this is talking about the past tense. Okay, let's see if there's anything that kind of talks about the future or the anything that could affect the future. A third issue is that many investors bought Bitcoin at around $90,000. Now trading below that, they may be hesitant to keep buying. Okay, while their investments are underwater, especially if they borrowed money to buy it and are now facing margin calls. Okay, so that could be a reason, right? But I do see very oversold signals on the RSI. Okay, that's when brokers demand more cash from investors to cover those loans. That in turn can lead to forced selling. Okay, yeah, that could be a reason. I mean, that could make sense. Now, don't count on the crash stopping just there. There could be sizable price swings next week, given that volumes are just likely to be thin from Thursday onward to Thanksgiving. That means it wouldn't take much pressure for Bitcoin to continue dropping. Okay, so I mean that could make sense. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that we're very oversold and we're on a very big support level and we could be bouncing off here soon? That's what I think. All right, let's take a look into. We're going to be taking a look into some altcoin setups. First of all, we're going to be taking a look into AI companions. See what's happening with AIC. I talked about a potential cup and handle pattern here. If we actually zoom out, this is the weekly time frame. Probably even zoomed out to the monthly time frame here. There is still a potential cup and handle scenario as we see rounded bottoms still. Okay, we have a monthly candle close coming up in about 9 days. Let's see where this monthly candle closes. If this monthly candle closes below about 12.5 cents, below it, like a solid candle below it, then that is going to invalidate this cup and handle scenario. Okay, because you're no longer going to see that rounded bottom. And the highest time frame I'm seeing it here is going to be the monthly time frame. As you guys can see, you have your higher red candles. Now, if we actually zoom in, daily time frame, get more clarity on what AIC could be doing. This is the daily time frame. I talked about a falling wedge pattern that is still intact. Okay, falling wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside because it tells you that after an extensive downtrend on that time frame, that the price action is likelier to break to the upside. Okay, now this falling wedge, if it actually breaks to the upside by this point, for example, price target would be about 45 cents for AIC. Now, if you actually zoom in closer, there is also another falling wedge pattern here on this within the bigger one. Okay, and AIC is trying to break out of this one here, but you see quite a bit of resistance right now, including your daily 21 SMA, the blue line, your daily 200 SMA, the orange line. Let's see if we can actually get a clean break outside of this falling wedge pattern before breaking out of the bigger falling wedge pattern here. Let's go ahead and go to AVNT and see what's happening with this coin here. Weekly time frame. Excuse me, not the weekly time frame. 3-day time frame. Now zoom in a little bit more. Okay. Daily time frame actually. Falling wedge pattern. Broke out of this one quite some time ago, back in October. Price target is about $1.90. Since the breakout here, it has not really done too much. It has hit as high as about 89 cents before forming another smaller falling wedge pattern here. Now, this falling wedge pattern here, I mean, this one is going to be pretty close to call. Okay, I mean, you got a falling wedge, but as of yesterday's red candle close, it closed very close to that bottom trend line there. I'm going to say this falling wedge pattern is still intact, just based on how close it is. It's not a solid candle close below the bottom trend line. So this pattern is still valid, and this could potentially be a bear trap here because you have a wick below the pattern, but you see a candle body back within the pattern from this green candle. Okay, candle wicks do not invalidate patterns. Candle closes do on the highest time frame that the pattern is validated on. Now, the price target, if it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about 77 cents. Okay. That's basically what I'm seeing for Avantis. Let's see if it can meet this price target before heading to that bigger one, because this bigger breakout here is still valid because the price action is still technically above the upward trend line of this bigger pattern. Let's go ahead and go to Moodeng and see what's happening with Moodeng. Weekly time frame. Falling wedge pattern. Price target, if it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about 37 cents. Zoom in, daily time frame. Falling wedge pattern. If it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about 13.5 cents price target. Let's see if Moodeng can hit the smaller price target before breaking out of the bigger one. It's very important to know that these price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less. A lot of which does depend on what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts dumping, these altcoin setups, they're not going to matter very much. And also very important to note that even though these technical analysis patterns have a higher chance of breaking in one direction, they still have a smaller chance of breaking to the other direction. Okay, I've seen bullish patterns break down and bearish patterns break to the upside. That basically wraps it up for this video. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of AIC, Avantis, Moodeng, or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to you for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.